All right, so I got some really great advice to start just consistently putting intros before the episode starts. So, a little backstory on Chase Erwin is that I went to the Kansas City Fitness Summit this past weekend, and he was one of the trainers that I got to meet and hang out with. He really stood out because he went out of his way to kind of get to know people, new people like myself that were coming for the first time. Obviously, I was a little shy, and he just had a great personality. And the more we talked, the more things that I kind of wanted to get to know about him. He sets a really good example for his family, for his colleagues, for people across the country, and other countries. So I hope you enjoy this one, and hopefully you can share it around because it was a funny one.
Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase, episode 46. Today I am joined by Chase Erwin. So you're joining me all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah, man. Born and raised, and living the southern thing.
What are three cool facts about Arkansas?
Let's see. Well, probably the most well-known fact is, I assume the most well-known fact is Bill Clinton was from here. So the president during the 90s, Mr. Bill Clinton, who had all kinds of extracurricular activities besides being president. So he did that. He was from here. I have all famous people in my head for right now for some reason. So Johnny Cash, he's from here. That's pretty exciting. And then the thing I use to lure people here is awesome hiking. We are the natural state. That's our tagline, I guess. So we've got lots of fun scenery. If you're not used to a lot of green wherever you live, it's an awesome place to come check out for green and water and all kinds of stuff like that. So, fun outdoor activity if you're an enthusiast.
Nice, I like it. And I'm digging all of the Superman posters in the background there. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, dude, Superman's my favorite by far. On the other side is all my comic books I've got posted up of him. Over here is all my pop figures that I have of him. Yeah, I dig Superman quite a bit. My gym wall used to be Superman blue with all those posters out there on it and more. So quite a bit of Superman paraphernalia.
Sweet. All right, so I want to go through a typical day for you. How do you start off your day? What kind of stuff do you do? When do you finish it? All the things.
Yeah, man. Okay, so right now during the school year, my typical day starts out I typically get up about 5 a.m. And I have one client that I go see right off the bat. So I wake up, Instagram, I always post my weight because I just do the running weight thing. So I do that very first thing of the day, get ready, pop out the door, head over to his house, and we train, talk sports, get the day rolling. It's an awesome introduction to your day. We have a good time, get my head right. And then after that, I will go over to one of our local high schools that I do some strength conditioning for. And I work there for about an hour and a half. I work with, it can be any groups. I work with baseball, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and football are the 4-5 sports I typically work with. So one of that combination of groups over there, head back home about 8:39, begin working with clients, man. So I'll work with clients typically. I run 30-minute sessions over here. So that works pretty well. And I typically go from 9 till, sometimes early afternoon is general day. And I typically have a break there in the early afternoon and won't pick up again until, post work time. So 5 o'clock time, and I'll work until about 6:30. So not a crazy day. Generally see about, generally 8 to 12 clients a day. So works out pretty well. And then it's on to hanging out with the kiddos and working out myself, man. So yeah, that's generally my evening times is kids and working out. So past that, just whatever curveball, which rarely occurs, uh, come into play. So
Totally. That's a pretty cool routine. What was life like as a kid growing up in Arkansas?
pretty chill, man. We're uh, mom and dad were awesome. I had a great childhood. Uh, I don't think there's anything super unique to Arkansas, like specifically as a kid. I mentioned all the outdoor stuff. That wasn't something like my family was like big into. Played a lot of sports growing up though, so that was generally where I spent most of my time. As a kid was playing baseball, so that's where I spent a lot of my free activity time. Other than that, man, tons of video games, which I'm still like big into. Play a bunch of video games. Uh, Hated school, had ADHD as a kid, still have it, but a little more understanding about it and how to like deal with it personally. So that's something that I grew up with, and kind of as I got closer to really like end of high school, I was able to get myself away from the medicating side of it. And once I did that, like everything's just like been pretty like cool with it, and haven't any issue with it since then. I'm trying to think of like anything like the only probably abnormal thing or something that most people didn't go through is that growing up, my parents were foster parents. And so I mean, I already have a big family. I have three biological siblings and then two adopted siblings. And then growing up, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or so children that were in or through our house at some point. And so that was like super cool. Gave me great perspective on life, like to see like what my life could be as far as like where these kids are coming from, and also just like the love my parents were able to give to all these kids, like whether they're in our house for a month or whether they're house for a couple of years. I got to see that, so that's something I'm always like very like blessed and happy to have like in my background, that I still take with me to this day, to like interacting with people or interacting with situations. So yeah, that was like life in Arkansas, I guess. Like nothing too out of the ordinary for the most part. So
Yeah, it is neat. I think sometimes people forget how much the same everybody is. Like, doesn't matter where we're from, doesn't matter what country or anything like that. It's all the same things.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Like I think we were talking about like cartoons like at the fitness summit. So yeah, I met Chris at the fitness summit. So this is awesome, like reconnection a week later. But we were talking about like cartoons we watched, and and in general we had the same cartoons, And it's like you don't it doesn't process because you're like, well, yeah, of course I saw the same cartoons as like my best friend down the street, but my Canadian friends north, just like, oh yeah, we all kind of saw the same thing, kind of experienced the same a lot of the same things growing up. So that's quite interesting. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, me too. So, with video games, what is your favorite video game platform of all time?
Holy cow. Okay, yeah. So all time. So currently, I pretty much just like play everything on like PC, but it definitely was not that way growing up. We all had like 64s and PS2s and Xbox. I would probably still kick it back to like, man, this is a hard one, because like the introduction of like the internet and being able to play with friends online, like for like that Xbox like 360 like generation was awesome. But I think I'd still go back to like N64 days and like playing GoldenEye with like a huge group of guys and like running like round robin tournaments at like big houses. Like that was just, it's super memorable like in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to say like I never personally owned a Nintendo 64, but my older brother bought like a PlayStation, and then he would trade his PlayStation for the N64. He would trade something else for something, and just like for a few months at a time. And yeah, for me it was like 007 GoldenEye. It was just like being able to play multiplayer. I really like the Zelda games, and I feel like those sort of like stuck with me more than the cooler games now.
Oh, for sure, man. Like yeah, over the years I've had groupings of games that have like consumed like large amounts of time. So like for sure like all those 64 games had it. Then there was a certain game on Xbox, one of the Elder Scrolls game, Morrowind, and I probably pumped like upwards of like 700 hours into that game.
Whew.
The, well, the game I pumped the most time into was like one of my first PC games. Back when I graduated high school in 2005, I played a game called Guild Wars, and it was kind of like a World of Warcraft type game, like big MMO RPG type game. And I think, by the time I was done playing that game, I'd put like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4,500 hours into the game. And so that was like where I spent a lot of my time. And now, yeah, now I've been on last 4 or 5 years. I've been playing a game called League of Legends, and I still play that quite often. And I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple of thousand hours on that game now. So it's, when you put years into games, it just like, even if you don't play like a couple hours a night, it just adds up.
It does. It does. So we're gonna spin this to family topic, and you kind of reflect on your parents and how they were so good in that they created a good environment for so many kids and for your family. And what are three qualities that really stand out about them that you aspire to have as you raise your family?
Man, Chris, like I'd probably say the overarching theme of my entire childhood was our beliefs. Man, our beliefs in God, and just what it meant to us. And we never, and this is always like a hard like subject to bring up, because people have they have a very black and white like opinion on the subject. And I grew up on the side of the fence that it was all love all the time. That my parents, when they want, like, again, going back to the foster care thing, and this is where I got to see it at an early age, is that day one of a kid that, it was a stranger on the street, basically, would have been if you'd seen him walking around. But they brought him or her in and showed them love at day one, moment one. And just the amount of love that we had as a family in the household, and how they always attributed it back to like their relationship with God, and how they had been given so much in their life because of their beliefs, and they wanted to pass that along as best they could. And so that always manifests itself in this love, and how those connections were deepened through faith and being able to spread what you've been given out in front of you. So kind of like two answers was that their faith and their belief system, I want to have that, and I want it to manifest it in my life and in my family and my house into love, and to show that like how caring you can be as a human. Like, it's just so easy anymore. Like, you see it all the time on the internet. I see it all the time on the internet where people just don't care. They'd much rather get like their point across and take a person from being a human and a person, and kind of dumb them down to just like an idea, and that's it. And they're willing to like crap on that idea, crap on that person, their feelings, everything else. And when at the end of the day, it's someone sitting behind that monitor, it's sitting somebody, is behind that keyboard. And and so that love is something that I want to like show my kids and show like people around me, that even though we believe different and we can be different people, that doesn't change the fact that we're humans, like, we're people, and you got to treat other people with like the same love and respect you'd want to have. And so the faith, the love, and then probably like the last thing like that I gathered, and this definitely from my dad's side as a kid, but definitely as my mom has a organization dealing with foster kids now, so I really see it a lot now in her. It's just a work ethic. They worked very hard. My dad started out as like basically like a banker, doing that thing, kind of like a small time manager there, and was like worked his way up like a big time in one of our local companies. My mom went from a house mom, housewife working at home with the kids, and now she runs an organization that finds kids families forever. So they both have aspirations, and they both went after them. So like that drive, and I guess grit. I guess if I had to sum it up into one word, it'd be like a grit, like going after it. So faith, then the love that like comes with it, the love that we show people, and then just grit and like pushing through things that may not be the most comfortable. So
That's awesome. I like that. So the next question that I have is, with your personal training career, what kind of inspired you? What is the moment or the age that you were where you first thought like personal training, that's the job for me?
this is quite interesting. So just a quick background. Growing up, I was a super skinny kid. So I had ADHD. I was on medication that like didn't help the situation. Always like cut my appetite. Literally in high school, the biggest part of my arms were my elbows. Like, period. It's like my favorite like statement to make because it's like a true to life statement. And so growing up, I worked out quite a bit. I mean, my grandfather, God bless him. He showed me a way from like 13 years old, 13 years old on. And he would literally take time away and like work out with me in like the little church gym that we had, like the big like universal machine in the middle that had like all the different like leg press and bench press all just machined into one big cage. And so we did that, for years. And I was able to see a little bit of muscle growth here and there, and that was nice. But I started taking it more and more serious as I got older and older and hit college, and then it was like kind of a real serious spell. But really, the whole time, personal training just always seemed like this cool like thing that like somebody would go do like right before they had a wedding or something. Like, oh, they're gonna go hire a personal trainer to get ready for a wedding. Like, oh, that's really cool. That'd be cool to hire one day. Never thought about it. I always thought I was going to go into sales in college, and that's what I studied in college. I studied marketing, business, and that's what I was going to go do. And then literally, so I was working for Hewlett Packard, and one day at the gym, out of nowhere, my one of the training managers on the floor just comes up to me, strikes up a conversation, says, have you ever thought about being a personal trainer? I was like, no. That very short conversation, but I don't know what it was that minute, but it's something triggered in me that I do love working out. I'd always had done it, since my, adolescence years, and I liked it. And I had seen changes in my body, and I thought that was awesome. But I also knew that I didn't, how we always do. We don't know enough, or hopefully the majority of us see that we don't know enough. So I was like, okay, like did my first, like literally that moment triggered it. Like somewhere in that weekend time after that happened, triggered it. I went and got, went and found some, I don't even know what it was, certification at this point. Lord knows the first certification you get. It's like, okay, just go grab one so you can come train at the gym. It's like, okay, this was a great idea. I'm controlling someone's health and body, and this is all I'm going to get for education. Fantastic. But just like started doing that in 09, and the rest has been history since. So.
What's been the toughest moment as you've like progressed through your training career? Like the point where you thought, screw this, I'm out of here.
Man, like I try to stay like fairly like upbeat about stuff because we always have moments where stuff just doesn't seem to go right. Like one of the first ones was like when I like made the full on transition to training. Like, so I went from like my comfortable job and just like training at nighttime, like kind of just fun, to like depending on it. That was like very like hard on the soul. Cause like I had a kid on the way. Like, it's like, I don't know if this is going to work, dude. Thankfully, like I had enough clients that came over from the gym I was at when I was full time, and we kind of just made it work. And then like, I mean, even to this day, man, like trying to make this transition now, like back in 2012 and 13, I like ran online training pretty well, and like it felt good, but I did a pretty crap job of like, in all honesty, like I just didn't know how to transition my in-person services to online as well. Even though I was given these, I mean, I had like 40 or 50 clients at the time because of the Fitocracy platform that I was a part of back then. And so like, it was like, it was awesome that I had all these like bodies, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I failed pretty miserably, like ran the first group okay, but had very poor follow-up and very poor like growth materials. And so did a pretty crummy job. And just like looking back at it now, it's like a more or less just a failure. So now it's like, how do you correct that now? How do you do it different so that it doesn't happen again? So like just learning like throughout the steps, like is always a process, and always like typically comes on the, or at least in my scenarios, like comes on the edge of like heels of failure, or like potential like missteps that you're trying to avoid in the future. So
Makes sense. From that moment, that whole like online experience, if you could like write down three lessons, what would they be? Like if you're trying to teach other people.
so I think like first and foremost, and like something that I just didn't like is like plan, look at like who you're going to be bringing in and realize like where they're at in their training career. Like if you're trying to take on complete newbies, like start going through the steps in your head about things you had issues with and plan education materials for that. Or if you're dealing with like more intermediate people, like give them new focal points to be aware of when they go to the gym. Like the plan can make or break like what you're going to do and whether you're a success at it or not. um like probably number two, at least in from that first experience, it's communication. One thing I had the hardest time of with is I didn't set up great lines of communication of everybody. Now, granted, some people aren't going to keep up with the communication you set up anyway, but you've got to have those lines open so that they know they're readily available and they can reach out to you via whatever those lines are. Just like with any relationship, I mean, we all know if we have relationships and your communication sucks, like the relationship's probably not going to go very far, So definitely working on that and keeping yourself open to those communications so that people can get, the most out of the time with you. As far as third goes, like plan communication, it'd probably be like follow through at the end. Like um, if you say you're going to do something, if you've planned something, if you've even mentioned to like one person individually that you're going to do something, like follow through with it. Come through with the material you've promised. Or if you don't know a question and you tell them you're going to get them an answer, get them an answer. Don't just leave them hanging with it. I think some of that customer service side of stuff, if you can deliver on that, it really helps them buy into what the product is you're selling them or that you're coaching them on. It helps them with that mental buy-in when you're able to deliver what you've the follow through that you promised. So
Totally. I like those points. Our next segue is back to family. So,
okay.
my question for you is how did you meet your other half? Because everybody has a story to that.
Yeah, Chris. So so funny enough, so Holly's my wife, and interesting enough, we have baby pictures together. So our families have known each other our entire lives. I've known her from church growing up. Now, granted, when we were growing up, we didn't go to the same schools all through elementary, and then in middle school, I transferred over to the middle school she was at. So when I transferred over, I transferred over to this in particular school because one of my buddies, one of my best friends ever, went to this school, and so I was like, really like, I just want to go to school where Blake's at. Like that's all I care about. I don't really care about anything else. And so I went up there and like I've have made some great friends, but Holly was there at the time. She was dating somebody else, and this was in seventh grade. So again, a long time ago. This is back 2001. And I remember specifically, and again, we weren't dating. She was still dating somebody. I remember specifically we went to one of our big water theme parks over here. It's called Wild River Country. It's freaking sick for Little Rock, dude. and and we have you ever seen those big wave pools
Yep.
like at theme park? Yeah. So we have one of those. And I have no freaking clue why, but I remember us all being like all the kids from whatever event we were at being out there. And I remember seeing her. We went to the same school at this point, but I guess I hadn't really noticed her. But I remember seeing her out there, like in the wave pool, like whatever we are doing, chatting in between the wave stuff, and be like, I really like this girl, like seriously like her. And so yeah. So anyway, like this led to this, like eventually we like dated a little bit our sophomore year, and then like kind of the rest is history, man. We've been together ever since then. Kind of just did the whole thing, man. Went to colleges together, got married pretty much straight out of college at 23 years old, and have two awesome kids. And just like any other couple though, man, ups and downs and all arounds, and we are where we are today, man. So
That's awesome. I dig it. What are your 5 favorite things about her?
My 5 favorite things. Okay, so one of the biggest things that attracted me early on was her athleticism. I love that she was athletic. She was like one of the best like basketball players in the city that we lived in back when she played high school ball. I love going and watching her play, like the intensity she had on the court. And honestly, it led to like the only breakup we ever had was back our sophomore year of high school because she had a new basketball coach coming that next semester, and she wanted to like put all her effort into practicing, so she made sure she had a starting spot. And looking back on it now, I give her it because as my family recalls it, they're like, you broke up with Chase like 10 times over basketball, and it really was just that one time. But we just give like sarcastic answers, and that's just my family. But like looking back on it now, it's like because she had a passion and she had an intensity, and so that was her best way to display that. So for me, that was like one of the, it's still to this day one of the most attractive things for her. Like she works out hard, she tries hard at stuff, and it's very attractive. Probably number two, and this is more on this side of life now that we've been married and working and stuff, is her work ethic at her job. She's a radiologist technician, so she shoots the x-rays at one of the local orthopedic clinics. And man, she just works freaking hard. Like, the kind of stuff that would go unappreciated. I think it would be kind of how I put it. The stuff that like she works hard at, like even though sometimes it can be kind of one of those unappreciated jobs. It's just like go in and do this. It's super important and it helps a lot of people. So the fact that she works hard at it, I'm just very proud of her every day that she does that. As far as on the home front, man, like what can I say? She's like the best mom like to my kids possible. The amount of the amount she wants to do for them is it drives me to be better because she wants so much for our kids. She wants them to have whatever opportunities are in front of them. She wants to be able to lay whatever the path that is for them to get there, and so that makes me want to work harder to help assist her on that. Those are 3 awesome ones. Let's see what are I'm trying like probably like our sense of humor back and forth. Like I won't say it's like laugh out loud. Like very rarely, like every once in a while we have like, I'm a very sarcastic person and I remember early on that's not how Holly like took things. If someone was sarcastic with her, like hurt her feelings, like, oh, this person really hates me. Like, because my dad is like the most sarcastic in the world. And when she first met him for like 3 months, she's like, your dad hates me. And I was like, oh, I was like, no, if he's joking, that means he loves you. Like, he won't talk to you if he doesn't like you. Like, like, and so that, like, just those interactions are just, they're very comical. Like, and again, unfortunately, it's like those kind of things that aren't like laugh out loud funny sometimes, but the interaction. And then at the end of the day, like Chris, it goes back to like faith stuff. She's been a woman of faith her whole life. Again, we all have our ups and downs, and me and her have had the same, like in our faith, but we've come back to like our grounding point in the Lord, and to see that and to see it kind of radiate from her, it just I can't be blessed more than I am, man. So those are probably like the 5 things. I'm sure if I had a little more time, I could have some more quirky ones, but those are the 5 things I probably give you off the top of my head. So
That's awesome. I like those. I think what really stood out to me was how like you did like a family trip to go to the fitness summit. Like everybody jumped in the van. So what's that like integrating fitness into your life like that, making it a whole family thing, like you're doing something, they're doing it with you.
uh, man, like I honestly think like besides my faith, it's the greatest thing I can pass along to my kids. Is because it's something that can stick with you forever. It's not like a sports skill that like as soon as you age out of like whatever, you can't use it anymore. It's something that physically makes them strong. And in that physical strength, mental strength, I've attained more mental strength over my entire fitness career because of that physical exertion I have. So I want it to be something they can find pleasure in. They can find an outlet in whenever you need some release from life itself, and just at the end of the day, be something you're able to look at and say like, this is enjoyable to me because it changes me. And so hopefully at some point that's something they fall in love with. It's not ever going to be something I thrust upon them because it's my ideals of it, but it's definitely something that I want them to see their dad and their mom doing and showing and being about. Um, because at the end of the day, and Chris, once you have kids, or if you ever have kids, or if you're around kids, you'll see it. They follow more by seeing than hearing. You can talk the talk all you want, but unless you walk the walk and kind of demonstrate uh, why stuff is so great, it'll never sink in. So I want to be that example to really be on the forefront of my family. Is like, I want to be the guide. I want to be the one that like takes them on the path for hopefully the healthiest life they could lead. So yeah, that's where I like to place fitness in our family.
I like that. And I'm going to have some listeners that are like going to be new parents in the next few months. And I'm wondering if you have like some really rock solid advice for somebody who's just about to be a parent.
It's okay. So this is like kind of going off script from like my fitness advice about having a plan. So when you're a new parent, you'll have an awesome plan and you'll have all these like great ideas that are spinning in your head, and you're like, all right, this is how we're going to do it. This is the schedule we're going to keep. We're going to run it perfectly. And then your kid's going to be born, and then you might as well just light the house on fire and like run away from it, cuz like all of those like awesome plans like will be gone, man. Because, well, some people, so I shouldn't say that, because some people really, really try hard to stick to the plan. But I think that adds a layer of stress on you as a parent. So you don't get to enjoy that time as much as you could if you just deviated from the plan just a little bit to make some exceptions. Because again, your kid is your child, a human being, a person. They're not going to be they're gonna be perfect. They're gonna have moments where like you want to shake them and you want to do, you don't want to be there with them, and that's okay. That's totally normal. Set them on their bed, let them cry it out for a little bit, walk away from the situation, breathe, realize this is your spawn, this is your kid, and realize you're responsible for more or less how they turn out. So be flexible, as a new parent, because there are going to be times when you're ready to get out the door like 20 minutes ago, and all of a sudden your kid's got to like go poop, and you've got to make about a 15-minute adjustment to get them on the toilet, or change the diaper or whatever it is. And you will not be able to plan for everything that happens, and just be okay with it. So
What's been the messiest situation that you've ever encountered as a father?
man, I've been fairly lucky with like crazy situations. Like just the other day, my best friend's in town. One of the guys I went to school with back in high school, and he's in town from Boston, and he's inside with the kids while I'm finishing up with a client session. And he comes out like this is not the messiest, but it was just most recent. He comes out, he's like, "Hey Chase, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I was like, hey, just sat here and talk with like Bobby and wife. Like, what do you need? He's like, yeah, like I just turned around and Isabella's my daughter. She's about to be 2 years old. He's like, yeah, she's got crap all over her hands. And so like I walk in and she's got like poop like covering her arms. And he's like, I think she's just playing in her diaper. I was like, yeah, no crap, Sherlock. Here we go. And so like, again, just like random stuff like that's going to happen. I think we haven't had like any crazy like kid covered in like entire body poop or something. Like I've had horrible stories about that. Like thankfully that hasn't happened, but you'll definitely get literally up to your arms and crap like every once in a while. So
That's fair.
so prepare yourself. If you've got a weak gag reflex, you may need to buy some oxygen mask or something.
That's awesome. And on another topic, you're a big fan of wrestling. So what started that for you?
Oh man. Um Man, I honestly, man, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to remember, like, back in the mid 90s, I seriously got into wrestling. Like, right before the WCW, WWF feuds and like the NWO time frame, like all that, like maybe right before that, like 95. And I honestly, my one of my clearest memories is like one of those early like feuds, like when they just started. But I also like one of my best memories is like N64 WCW versus NWO, like one of the video games. I remember playing the crap out of that game. But I had a pretty good recollection of wrestlers prior to that, so that definitely wasn't my first like feeling of it. But I really just think I like the characters. Like I love that feeling of being somebody else. I really dig that. Like for years on fitness stuff, I went by like it's still my name on Instagram, Blackout Trainer, and literally my stick was like I always wore like a freaking black bandana in every picture, like over my mouth, like it was just my stick. I freaking have like a slideshow of like 50 people on this website doing it, like right before one of my competitions. And I don't know, just I like characters and I like people who are able to act out these like intricate characters in front of millions of people who know like they're is a gimmick, but they're still able to hold these. I don't know. It's just very interesting to me. I love the dynamics of how storylines play out when they're well written, just like a good TV show, just that it's happening. And it's like huge muscled up dudes that are like ripped up. And obviously that fits well with fitness, so it just was super intriguing back then. And still to this day, I definitely don't watch like near what I used to, but it's still intriguing to me, like when they have good characters in the lineup. So
I like that. So it was like the last night of the summit, and you did like a spot on wrestling impression. Can you share an impression with our listeners?
so a little bit of background. One of my some of my favorite grouping of videos on YouTube, or at least it used to be. I haven't watched them much anymore. But like it was like old like Macho Man Randy Savage, like whenever he was doing like his shoots with like Mean Gene or something, and he'd always have like crazy like terminology or like crazy like things he was trying to like allude to, and like he'd always be like, oh yeah, Mean Gene, like here we go, brother, we're gonna like. And when he would get into it and he'd start popping out like cream of corns and like oh man, it was like so crazy. So like I think I did the like Ultimate Warrior one for you, where Ultimate Warrior is like literally he has to be coked out of his mind for this like one shoot he did, where he's talking about like getting his race is called the war. That's what he called him. And like he literally was like talking like, so yeah, brother, we're gonna get the Warriors and we're gonna load up on the jet engine and we're gonna load up with the rocket fuel and we're gonna take ourselves into outer space and it's gonna be, and like he just goes on this rant, and it is again, it looks like he's coke fueled freaking rage machine, and it is great, man. It is. Like, if you haven't ever watched them, just go on. They'll give you a good laugh, and like, you'll see grown men play characters that grown men probably should be playing, but they're way more enjoyable than than anything else.
That's awesome. I love that. So you're like probably one of the most positive people that I've encountered in a long time. And what is your secret? What do you do every week to stay so positive?
Oh man, Chris, like, uh, like I don't know if it's like that much of a secret. It's I wake up and it's gotta be back to like my view on the world, man. We're all like super different. We all have things that are different. I don't let people's differences like change how I feel about them as people. I may disagree with things. I think people get so caught up in those disagreements that it really like hammers them internally, that it changes how they feel about themselves, or they feel like they must build up these big defenses to always be prepared to counter whatever the world has to throw at them. And and why I think defense is good and it's good to have those things, it really shuts you down to people sometimes. And when you're shut down, you just can't be yourself. Um, and like that's sad and it sucks. Like, because I hate seeing people that are just like shut down, beat down. You know, they've got things that oppress like their way of thinking or how or who they want to be. Like, I think really we all have a sense of who we want to be inside. But sometimes I think our situations can lead us to get to the point where we're like, I can't be that person. I, life has thrown me this or that, and I just don't want to be that person. So I don't know if this is like answering it in any way, but it's just like taking and mindfulness is like super popular topic, but it's something that I truly believe in is to be aware of the people around us. Now, I don't mean conform to the people around us, but just be aware of like the things that people are going through around us and realizing that we are very blessed to be where we're at. We've got a roof over our heads. We've got food on the table every day. We have the luxury to go train our bodies and put ourselves through pain where people are in pain of no choice of their own every single day. And so to be able to like just take that small step out of my own life and see that, I'm very blessed. And then man, like at the end of the day, like I told you earlier, like it's faith, man. It's the belief that there's something bigger than me and there's a purpose bigger than me in the world. And if I can show a little bit of love, a little bit of light through my actions or through a smile or whatever it is, I want to. I want to do that because I don't want to miss an opportunity to change someone's day. And who knows how that one day of change like snowballs into something else for their life. So if I'm in my head, if I'm off of that for a day, for a moment, there's an opportunity that could be missed, and I don't want to miss an opportunity. So
That's a good explanation. I like it. My next question for you is in your training experiences, like you would have worked with a lot of different clients, but there's usually like one or two, maybe three moments that really stand out. And it's like the client had a big win, or it was just something that taught you about like this is why you're in the industry. Can you reflect on a few of those moments?
yeah, man. So I'm gonna use a non-client first off. Um, if any trainers listening to this, or anybody that has a significant other or spouse, will know it's very hard in anything you do when you're working with your girlfriend, boyfriend, significant wife, husband. It's hard to get them to listen to your areas of expertise sometimes because they're the one person they're like, listen, like I hear you talk about it all the time. I know what I'm doing. Like, and I remember for a long time, like me and Holly, like again, the way our relationship is, and the way we're funny, like this was one of the things that was like a sticking point for like, and again, we've been together since 2004, so we've been together for a while, but like for probably about 8 years, there was like it was something I just didn't mess with. I didn't mess with, and so the first season, she really like was like, all right, Chase, like forget it, like I'm tired of like messing around on my own, like will you do something for me? And so which she and like again, like this is more like just a win for all all trainers out there that people can be helped. You just have to this is more like sometimes you just have to give people space to grow and realize like where they lack. And she realized that she was strong and she could work out hard, but she needed a little extra guidance at certain ways of the road. Looking back at it now, there were things that I would do different, but she was able to lose like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 35 pounds. She didn't have a ton to lose, but 35 pounds, like all her stuff went up, and she just got to see like what was possible. And that was more like a win now from like that standpoint. Like it took 8 years, like, and again, she didn't have like a lot to do, so it may not be a great case, but it took her 8 years to realize like what she was missing as far as, and that's how a lot of people are. They just don't come around to the realization that they need help until it's, I don't know if this is right, but like dire straits where it's like, I can't do this. And then they might turn to you. So it's always good to like be aware from a training perspective, to like be there like for people. And again, it kind of goes back like don't try not to have a bad day, because you don't ever know like when that person might need your help that day, and that might be a time for you to kind of grow in yourself and grow your business, grow things of that nature. More recently, I've had a few guys go on year long kind of like changing their bodies type stuff, and I think this is where I really would love to see myself work is basically young dudes, both these guys in their 20s. One coming from the overweight and trying to get down, and one coming from the, I won't say necessarily underweight, but definitely like skinnier side of things and trying to come up muscular wise. And both Aaron, who came down and he dropped from like 205 pounds to like 185 pounds in a year, and like dude got shredded up, and the whole time was like able to like get his head right around like what was needed and what it took and the work needed, and he dedicated himself. And that was like, it was super encouraging to watch happen over the course of the year, because he came from a place of like had just had a bad relationship, as like a lot of people have. They'll have some life event that determines that next stage, and he just went through the steps month by month, until he got to where, you know, he was like, man, this is awesome. Like, this is something I can continue doing my rest of my life. And so that was awesome. Then Andrew, he just finished up his with me a few months ago, his year. He's still over here, but he kind of had the opposite thing where he was trying to basically gain size. And so over the course of the year, his crazy thing was, and everyone will see it kind of as they go through their own journey, sometimes it won't necessarily be like a scale victory, but because like he really didn't gain much weight, but his muscle mass was crazy. I think he was like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6 inches wider in his shoulders by the end of the year, the same body weight. Like, it just had crazy things he's able to see. And, you know, he does filmmaking for a living. And he was in one of his buddies' film. He's like, dude, I love it when they tell me to take my shirt off now. Like, that's like, you know, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, you better request all your freaking scenes be shirtless. This is how I advertise.
That's awesome.
This is my advertisement. So like, and I've been fortunate enough to work with people for a long, long time. I've had people in their older years that just like being able to get up and down like staircases at basketball games have been like just awesome pieces of puzzles that they put together over the years. And that stuff's awesome as well. Like, but those are probably like two, like the more like dramatic ones I've had recently were those two guys. And again, that's kind of like where I see myself being, is because that was me as a kid. Like, when I was growing up in my late teens, early 20s, was the kid that like, oh, the hopeless skinny kid that will never do anything. They'll never have an ounce of muscle. And it's like, dude, with like some dedication and with better knowledge than I had, you could make it happen in a much shorter period of time. So
I like it. That's good. So
yeah, man.
Next question is, which would you choose if you had to choose, pizza or donaires?
What the hell? What's a donaire? What?
I didn't even think of that. That's awesome. So donaires are apparently specific to Canada.
What are these donaires, eh?
That one caught me off guard. So yeah, donaires are like.
I was like,
You go ahead.
oh, okay. No. I was like, donuts. Duh. I know what you're talking about. I was like, dude, that Canadian accent really hit that donut hardcore.
All right. So donaires they take like meat, and nobody that I know knows what kind of meat, but they take that and they season it, and then they put it into this big chunk. Then the chunk like rotates and gets heated up, and then they cut off little slabs and they put it in a wrap with donair sauce. It's pretty good. And then you add some veggies.
So like it like reminds me of like Euros is like what it reminds me of. It had like the big lamb, like, and they'll like slice up the lamb like on the same kind of rotisserie type thing.
Yeah,
and they'll go and they'll basically shape it. Okay. So like in that scenario, pizza 100%. Like, for sure, I would do a meat lovers pizza, deep crust. Like, yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Donair, man, bring me one of those donairs whenever you come down there.
Totally, I'll have to like sweet talk them at customs. Like, what the hell is this? I don't know, man. Just let me go.
let me let me be. Let me be. Don't touch me. Oh, dude, that's hilarious. Oh,
So,
Canada.
on the topic of funny things, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you in a training session?
Oh boy. Shoot. Funniest thing that's ever happened in a training session. Man, I'm trying to think of like thankful I've never had like like too many face plants or anything. Because I was trying to think of like if I had stuff like that. Man, I don't know that I have like we have funny conversations, but I don't have like crazy like instances of like I've had people like I mean you obviously have like the stories like people like farting like mid session and stuff like that, but like I feel like that's more typical. Like when people are working out hard, that just happens. And like honestly, I've seen every trainer in the world like try to address it differently, like bring it up and like poke a little fun at it and be done with it. Or, like I definitely like just be like ignore it completely, like it doesn't happen. Like oh good set, let's go baby, let's go. You're you're getting after it now. You're getting after it. Oh man. Yeah, like other than that, like I guess like one of the funniest things I had people do there for a little while. I was so I trained out of my garage gym and I have a nice size hill like I live on. And I had at one point I was like without a sled for a little while. And I made people drag me up the hill on my kids' like little wagon. I would sit in it and I would make them literally pull me up the hill on this wagon. And that always got a good rise out of any neighbor that like popped outside. So that was pretty funny.
Did you ever get video of that? Like, that's awesome.
Like like I definitely have one somewhere, but it was like 3 years back. Like I literally just had like a new client, old client who just got back from like having one of her kids, and she was like, "Yeah, you remember like a few years ago when I pulled you up the hill?" I was like, "Holy cow! I totally forgot about that because I've had my new sled for a while." And like I was like, "That was a good times, man. I should whip that thing back out."
Totally. You should do like a throwback post or like a new challenge
Yeah,
for new clients.
exactly. Yeah, come drag the death. I think I had like a little like thing on the side, it's like death wagon. Like I was like, yeah, it's freaking death wagon. Let's go. Drag me up the hill, baby.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah, pretty silly, dude.
when you think about like maybe the next 5 years to come and you think about your career and life and all the things that are important, do you have any like goals or aspirations or like visions for yourself?
Man, so like probably like the biggest thing is like over the next yeah, like let's just say like arbitrary like 5 years. I want to like I said, I'm getting back into the online space. I really by that time want to have a well functioning community of people. Again, kind of in like this male 20 to 40, trying to put on muscle, trying to get through the life, that kind of stuff. That's like that's my thought. That's where I want to be. But then sometimes I'm kind of like, well, I really do enjoy everyone I train with. I train with folks from 12 years old to 80 years old. I have clients that span that scope, and I really like all the different areas of life that I get to experience with them. Like my high school kids, like I'm 32 and I don't feel like I'm that far removed from it, but then I hear them talking, I'm like, holy cow, like I have no freaking clue what you're talking about. And then like my older generations of folks, like when they're bringing back up, like, oh yeah, didn't you like him as an artist? It's like, Bobby, I wasn't born in 1970. I have no clue. Like, you know, and so like I do enjoy like the diversity that I get from those because everyone has their different thought processes and where they're at in life and what they're preparing for next. And so I do enjoy that. So even though I feel like I would do my most good with that group of guys, as far as just letting them see the best improvement they could. I also do enjoy like my big group. So I do find myself kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes, as far as like what's the right path to take. Like I got two paths that are different, and if I do want to focus my energy and effort here, that I really need to focus my energy effort here, and I need to just keep this as steady as I can while I focus energy and effort here. But so honestly, I guess like as far as family goes, like I'd love for Holly to like have to work less in 4 to 5 years. That's one of her dreams, is like to be at home with the kids more. And so I'm really hoping and putting my effort into that online space, because I do see the most potential for growth there, as far as what I'm doing locally and whatnot. So if I guess if I had to guess, and if I could, look at the magical hourglass of what's going to happen, it would be looking like with a big community space online, in the next 5 years from a training perspective. So.
Nice. I dig it. How about travel? Like, where's the coolest place you've traveled to?
Dude, Chris, like that's was something that's like a little funky. Like I've never cared to travel a whole bunch. Like it's not, I get to see all the people and I never think like, oh man, I wish I could go see that. Like, and I don't know why it strikes me like that. Like, because it always seems like everybody wants to do that. So to answer your question, probably the coolest place I've traveled is like Hawaii. As far as like traveling, like it was super beautiful. We got to see like the volcanoes and all the different variations of beaches, which is like insane. Like I pretty much traveled to Florida like every year since I was a kid, and it's just like white, beautiful beaches. But they have like rock beaches and black beaches and green sand beaches and peak sand beaches and regular like your browns, and like it's just like really crazy to see on one island space just the differences over there. So that was like really cool. But there's a couple places that I would love to go, and this is more just like for years my grandfather's traveled the world, mission trips, just taking people on trips, all kinds of stuff. And one of his favorite places is Switzerland, and so at some point I'd really like to go out there. And that's just more from my grandfather's experiences. Has always been very fun experiences here, and so I just trust what he loves to do. And so I'd like to do that just from that standpoint. But man, other than that, like I'm a pretty boring body as far as places I've been and places I go type stuff.
You gotta come up to Canada and see what donaires are all about.
Dude, hey, there we go. I'm gonna get in a donaire eating contest when I go up there. That's what I'm gonna sign up for.
Totally. So I'm gonna bring us into the last question. This is one that I ask all of my guests. And it's, if you
Okay.
had one piece of advice on how to authentically live your life to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, I'll kind of go back to like um the kind of my upbringing, and that is, take a step back from where you're at in your life every once in a while. Take a look at the people around you, the people you interact with every single day, and realize they're all trying to do their best in whatever it may be. It may not mesh 100% with how you feel, how you believe, how you want the people around you to be, but realize they're trying their best to whatever they do. Situations, upbringings for them, things that have led them to the position they're in, may be the thing that's affecting them. And you could be that one light, that one good spot, that one positive thing they have to look to every single day. But if you choose to be the down and out soul, and that is, they just get to see another one of that. They grow no stronger. You don't get to empower the people around you with your actions. And because at the end of the day, the only person's action we can control is our own. And it's, yes, it takes some effort, because you have to look inside. You can't just go about mindlessly. So if you have anything to say, take a step back from where you are, realize that we are very, very fortunate and blessed to be in the positions we're in. It may not be the ultimate position we want to be in, but we're very fortunate to be in the circumstance we're in. If you're listening to this podcast, you're very blessed to be where you're at, because you have means far greater than most of the world. And realize that you can impact someone's day by how you choose to live. And so just be that, put a smile on your face and kind of, see where you can be a light to other people's dark. So
That was awesome. I like that. So, thanks for joining me today.
yeah, dude. I really, yeah, dude. I loved meeting you last weekend, man. I was very excited to always make new friends, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where your training journey is going to take you, dude. You're in good hands with the people you've surrounded yourself with, and and the people you've already connected with, and so you're gonna have like leaps and bounds of head starts above like me and where other people like started from. So that's, your growth is exponential to what where you're at now. So I'm super excited to like be with you and walk with you through your journey, man. So
Thanks. That means a lot.
of course,
You
Chris.
you have a podcast too, don't you? Or do you
Man,
not?
so like check this out. Not anymore, not anymore. Like, so me and my best bud, we, again, back in this all this stuff like really started around this fitocracy, and that's just a, I don't even know if you're familiar with it,
Yep.
but it was a okay, cool. So it was a game website that like basically, for anyone who doesn't know, you basically were able to track all your workouts, all your exercises, and it gave you points like a video game, and you leveled up character. And so back then I got pretty huge in the community. And so we started a podcast. It was called the Jackin' Out Connection. So his name was Dr. Blackjack on the show, and I was Blackout Trainer on the show. So that's kind of where we just had the goofy name. But we literally did, I think we did somewhere in the neighborhood of like 60 something podcasts back then. And we did it with like everyone, like Kelly Davis, John Romanello, Brett Contreras. Uh, I mean, we had like Dick Talons, like all the people from Fitocracy. We had, Andy Morgan. I think at some point we had Greg on. Like we had everybody on at that point, several years back. And then like we really did, it's kind of like one of those things where you kind of shortchange like what you're doing. At the time, we're like, well, like not a ton of people are listening or like giving us feedback on it. So we're like, okay, well, we kind of did it. We had a good run of it. And then we just stopped. So it was something that like we enjoyed doing. We just kind of didn't have where we were at in our lives. We just didn't put the effort that we could have into it. But it is what it is.
Makes sense. That's cool. And it's good to have that
Yeah,
experience.
almost definitely is how I met a lot of the people I know now. So it was if for nothing else, I love human interaction. I love human connection. And so that was well worth the time that we spent recording and shooting all those episodes and just kind of goofing off. So it was good.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to
Yeah,
wrap it
dude.
up. And thanks for joining me today.
Dude, all right, big Chris, man. You take it easy.
Yeah. See ya.
All right, see you, bub.